like my BFF at work. So I'm really happy to share him with you. He began his career in the industry much like my own. He began his oil and gas career at a land software company in development and education. And Kyle and I both spent many hours together building training manuals for the software and doing all that kind of stuff for that software company. So that's how I met Kyle. He spent 11 years working in the industry, working for software companies as well as E&P companies, and now works for P&P Land Services. He brings a ton of knowledge in both software and IT development. He is also the co-creator of OnlineNews.com. He is an oil and gas news outlet that brings knowledge, articles, job listings, assets for sale, company news, events, and to the industry. Kyle also takes care of our website and IT needs at the office. He's our jack of all trades, and I could not be prouder of what he brings to the table. And this past year, P&P, as well as many other companies, have seen more and more data conversions, dashboards, custom reporting than ever before. So Kyle's instrumental in keeping us current and creating the most efficient and effective ways to process our data. So I'm so happy to welcome Kyle Souza and all his knowledge to the ALTA luncheon. Let's give him a big hand.
Get my USB plugged in here. Sweet.
You know we'll have an IT problem now, Kyle.
Testing.
Right?
Hello. Let me know if you can't hear me. Also, rather than taking questions at the end, which you can save questions till the end, but if you get lost halfway through, that means half of this isn't going to be of any use to you, so feel free to interrupt with any questions that you have. Everybody in the back can hear me? All right? Okay. All right. So we're going to be talking about spreadsheets, everybody's most exciting topic. Basically, there's a lot of how that goes into a lot of Excel trainings. I'd rather you walk away with what for this training, and that's more of what you can do. And then you'll have these slides that you can take with you if you want to reference how to do it. Now, you have computers, so I'm not expecting you to remember every little thing that I say today. But know that you can do it, and it's really not too complicated as long as you follow the steps. So, what we're going to talk about is combined reports, which is basically what to export, what unique identifiers are, how to create those, creating a dashboard using pivot tables, non-pivot tables, such as regular tables, how to format those, and then formulas. Well, formulas that reference pivot tables and formulas that reference multiple tabs inside your spreadsheet. Tabs are called worksheets. Oh, also, if I talk too fast or mumble, call me out on that.
I'll do that, Kyle.
All right. And so how do we do this? How do we build the dashboard? How do we combine reports? It's math, just a lot of math. You've got arithmetic, you've got algebra. Don't be scared about all that math, though, because there's also mathematical formulas. Now you can be scared. And in case anybody's wondering, this picture of a combine has nothing to do with the report, other than the word combine, or this outro, other than combine is in this slide. So, very easy to picture. What is, sorry, I'm not used to presenting here. Next slide. Okay, good, cool. I think my slides are out of order. There we go. What is our goal? Staying awake for the next 30 minutes. Number one. Okay. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to create a dashboard that shows us what acreage is expiring, when that acreage is expiring, and then tracking us either renewing or releasing that acreage. I'll go back. So when you, man, this is really, I don't know what I did when I say this. So the first thing we got to do is answer what is expiring? Anybody want to postulate what I wrote down? You don't have to get it exact. Lease, okay. Lease is a good answer. It's like saying Jesus in Sunday school, right? So basically, we're looking at non-producing tracts that are expiring this year but are not held by production on another tract of their lease. For that, we're going to need to also figure out what data it is that we need. So far, in case anybody's keeping track, I haven't told you anything about Excel. This is all just theory before you even start with it. But figuring out what you need to make these reports is a big part of the legwork that's going to make your life easier later on. Knowing what it is that's in your system, knowing what it is that you can get out of your system is a vital component before you get started. So what we need is pretty basic though. We need some track data, we need some lease data. Expiration dates, where Q clauses are, what leases have options to extend, what our costs are associated with those leases, and then what the actual acreage is. Now, whether you're in a lease-based system or a tract-based system, a lot of times that acreage information is at the tract level. So that's why I have it on that side of the slide. All right, exports. So what spreadsheets have the data you need? For me, these are the 4 spreadsheets that I go to for most of my data. It's a list of my leases, a list of my tracts, a special provision status report, and then a lease tract owner report. I don't know what it's called in every single system. I know in one system it's called a lease schedule by tract, and another system is called a contract summary by tract. I don't know any other names for it. But basically, if it has lease data, tract data, and owner data, that's the report that you want. One second.
I never eat pictures.
Sorry, just haven't seen the Wizard of Oz at the end of the movie.
Kyle, you are going to send this to us, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. I think I got that slide back where it goes now. Okay. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to combine multiple reports together. A lot of times the answers that you need aren't in any one report because the analyst doesn't usually design the land system, and what comes out is based on what somebody was told you would need 10, 15 years ago. So, what we have to do is we have to end up making our own reports, right? All right. So, know your goal, like I said, know your data. You need something that links multiple reports together. That's what we call a unique identifier. Sometimes systems have those, whether it's some cryptic primary key that's in a database that just looks like random letters and numbers, or if it's a lease ID and tract ID that you assign, you can either have a unique identifier in your system or make your own. And it's better to export too much than it is not enough. So sometimes you just need to run through half a dozen different reports and see which one's going to have what you want on it. But how do we combine them? The answer is not magic, as fun as that answer would be. Instead, it's formulas. One of the big things after you figure out unique identifiers is figure out your main report. What I mean by main report is what report already has the most stuff on it that you're going to be using. That just means that you have less to edit next time. And then you just go one column at a time. That's a really boring answer, but you just got to go one column at a time when you make these things. All right. So which export already has the most stuff on it that you'll be using? For me, that's that lease schedule by tract or that lease tract owner report. Maybe a little hard to read everything on the right-hand side of this slide, and that's fine. The point is, a lot more stuff comes out on that report than I actually need. I folded about a dozen items, These are all column headers from that Excel spreadsheet, so I'm not using about 75% of the stuff that I'm exporting. But it's the only way to get these 12 things out that I need. Okay, before I get technical. All right. Nobody ran for the door, that's a good sign. All right. Any questions before I get started? Okay. You're going to see some colors. Don't forget.
Everybody raise your hand now.
All right, so it's time for formulas. But we're only going to be talking about 3 different formulas. And really, we only care about 2 of them. So the first formula is equal. Really simple. You just put an equal sign in. All right, so you can put equal and then go click on a cell in another spreadsheet. That brings the value of that cell into your main spreadsheet. Okay, so you have your reports. Easiest thing to do is to export. Let's say you do 4 exports. Sorry. You do 4 exports. You're going to create tabs at the bottom of your Excel workbook for each spreadsheet. You make a new tab, and that's where you're going to do these formulas. And you just type in equal and then go click on your main report for whatever that unique identifier is going to be. I always like to have those on the left. Comes in really handy when you do those formulas later. So thing to keep in mind. Okay, so the equal sign. But the equal sign, you can do some extra stuff with that. So like I said, you can create unique identifiers. This second example on the right-hand side that I have, get the screen over there too. You can do underscores, dashes, whatever text you want can be added into a string in the formula by putting it in quotes. You need and signs and quotes. So what this does, by doing A2 and sign, quote, underscore, quote, and sign, AJ2, that gives me the value L001 underscore TR0001. That's my lease ID underscore my tract ID. So all that to say, that's what I'm using as a unique identifier. Because in my system, I only have one tract lease relationship. All right, I heard that I lost somebody. Sorry. I don't want to lose you though. Okay. So what we're doing is we're just putting 2 IDs together to make one ID. That way we have a reference. Because let's say you have the same mineral owner on multiple tracts, but we only want to bring the interest for his info on this tract as relates to one lease. You could have an instance where you have multiple leases on the same tract, right? That happens with more than one mineral owner. So this gives us that a more unique identifier than just a tract ID or just a lease ID. Does that make more sense? Okay. It's okay to be confused, too. Just, don't worry about that. Like I said, feel free to interrupt. Okay. The next part, index match, you don't need to know any of this. All you need to know is that it exists. It's a newer type of formula than VLOOKUP. If you've ever heard of VLOOKUP, index match is slowly replacing that for a lot of functions because it is pretty powerful, but it's not always needed, if that makes sense. Like I have a car that can go 200 miles an hour. I don't need it to. Most of the time, I just need to go about 80. No, yeah, most of the time, I'm not maxing things out. So you don't need to use an index match. What you can do instead is VLOOKUP. All right. This is where we're going to spell. Yes, ma'am.
Is there an advantage to index match?
Yeah, so there are a couple of advantages to index match. The main things are with index match, you can have multiple relationships with it. So, okay, let me explain how these formulas work and what they mean. I'll step back to index match here. So, what index match is doing is it's returning the value of a cell where another criteria is found. So what I'm saying in this formula where equal index max LSS exclamation point, I'm not going to read the whole thing. That formula is saying give me the value of the 37th column, that's the last number 37, of the LSS worksheet, that's that first reference after index, where the value in column B, that's the second LSS reference, is an exact match to the value in cell A2 of my current worksheet. So what I'm looking at is I want the value from spreadsheet 2 that corresponds to spreadsheet 1. That's really what it's doing for me, it's just looking through. Now, if you have more than one match, like let's say you're not using unique identifiers, index match comes in handy. because you can see first result, second result, third result, fourth result, whereas VLOOKUP is only going to give you the first result. So that's the biggest advantage of it. Any questions?
Separate spreadsheets. So you're not from all these different spreadsheets in your main spreadsheet.
Okay, VLOOKUP. So this one, it's been around for a while, you guys may have heard it and not known what it does. There's also an HLOOKUP that nobody uses. We won't be talking about that either. But VLOOKUP, you can see it's a much simpler one. What I'm getting is that same answer that that index match formula gave me, but it's just a bit simpler here. Like I said, you're getting a copy of this, so you don't have to memorize it now. Just want to show you what you can do. So I'm looking for a match to my cell A2 in my worksheet and column B of the LSS worksheet, which is just a different tab in my workbook, and I'm requesting the value of the 37th column, starting with column B as column 1, because that's the start of my range there, where it says LSS exclamation point B colon AL, that's my range defined. And we'll only accept an exact match. So you're going to see this exact match thing pop up a couple times. I'll explain that in a second. But all that to say, yeah, you're going to end up counting columns when you use these formulas. So if you ever hear me singing the ABCs, I'm figuring out what letter or what number a letter corresponds to. If there's more than 26, you can tell me twice. All right. So this formula, the bottom description on the left is a bit of a wordy description of what each of these phrases mean. Basically, you need to know the value that you want to look up. That's your unique identifier. That's not going to change for a lot of these formulas. Just your unique identifier is where you start, where you want to get the information from, which column you actually want to see the value of, and then whether it's an exact match or an approximate match. Never do approximate match. All right. Hopefully that didn't sound too scary. But there are some very specific use cases where you want an approximate match, but not enough to care about for the majority of your life. So just go with the exact match, put it in false, it's the easiest thing to do.
In the identifier, unique identifier has to be in the very first cell, very first column.
Yes, that when you're using a VLOOKUP, it definitely does. That is one of the other advantages of index match, is that your unique identifier can be in any column. But for me, I also like having it on the left. Maybe it's just because I'm a creature of habit, but having it on the left also lets me know what I'm looking at for the rest of that line. If I know my lease ID and tract ID, that's what I usually use, then I can see, okay, for this lease and tract, here's all my other data. So for me, it just makes sense to have it on the left. But if you're using VLOOKUP, it definitely has to be on the left. Good question, though. Any other questions? They're all good questions. Okay. All right. Don't be scared. So this, by the end of it, this is the report that I make as my base report when I'm doing dashboards most of the time. I just want to show you that when you go one column at a time, this is what you end up going through. So this is why it takes some time. But guess what? You can save these and then make a copy of them and then replace it with view reports. And then you don't only have to do the work once. And it's a whole lot easier to make a template. All right. Everything good? All right, let's see here. Oh, is this computer hooked up to the internet? Yeah.
It should be.
Okay. Let's see if this will play for everybody. Oh no, it's on my screen. How do I put it on your screen?
Yeah, somebody else used this. Will it play?
Oh, it didn't play?
Bottom left.
Here we go. Pivot. Pivot. Okay, I don't think it's.
So, how do I get rid of this? right, so far nobody's yelled shut up at me, so I'm doing better than Ross. We're going to talk about pivot tables. Just a quick show, in case you didn't figure that out, word of the hour. Quick show of hands. Anybody here use pivot tables? Maybe, yes, okay, good. All right. So the main thing about a pivot table is, for anybody that's not familiar with them, it's a table that Excel makes for you. So it's just a little chart, a little graph, a little set of rows and columns that Excel will put together for you, so you can go about the rest of your life without having to fill in every individual cell. It's what we use to make dashboards. What I mean by dashboard is just a summary of data, okay? Not to use the word tab too many times, but that thing at the top of your Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and everything else that's been there since 2007, that's called the ribbon, has different tabs on it. You go to the Insert tab, and that's where you're going to find the Insert Pivot Table button. I always like to start in cell B2 because it gives me a nice little border around everything. Okay. We're going to zoom in on one of these pictures so it'll make it easier to read. But by the time you finish a pivot table, you get a little pivot table like what we see on the left, and you use the data selector like what we see on the right to make that. Oh, I also have an Excel spreadsheet to show you guys at the end, so hopefully kind of come together. Probably should have led with that. Okay, so with the pivot table data selector, this is where you decide where you want data to show up in your pivot tables. You have filters, columns, rows, and values. Basically what the filter does, it allows you to narrow down your data. Columns and rows are going to be how you organize it. That's a personal preference. A lot of times those can be interchanged. I usually like my tables to be wider than they are long. So I'll put things that have more unique values into the columns. And then for your values, those are going to be the numbers that you want to see, either average, summed, or counted. There's some other functions that you can use, but those are the main three. And sum is the most popular because usually we want to add things together, like acreage numbers, right? This is just a picture of more pivot tables. All right. Then we have a regular table. So this, nothing too crazy. Again, back on that Insert tab, select the cells where you want to put a table, and then just follow the prompt in the button. Then we get pretty tables. Okay?
So my saying.
Pretty is subjective, I will say that. Okay. Referencing a pivot table. That thing on the left, that big long formula, you never have to learn how to make that. Excel will make it for you with just putting an equal sign in and then clicking on a cell in a pivot table and then doing a plus sign and then clicking on a different cell in the pivot table. Excel will write the formula for you. So that's why I said equal is the best formula to learn because now you can just pull stuff together, you can add stuff together, you can subtract stuff, divide stuff if you want to get averages, whatever. Just put in the equal sign and then start clicking on things and do that plus sign or times sign, and it'll just put it all together for you. Everything makes sense? And then what do you get? Pretty tables. So if you do want to design your tables inside Excel to make it a little bit fancier, when you click inside a table, you get a design tab that pops up. It's not normally there in Excel, but it will show up whenever you have something formatted as a table, and then you can start messing with colors, stuff like that. There's different schemes you can go with. You can put borders around things, drop downs, all sorts of stuff. A couple other formulas that might come in handy when you get a little adventurous are if and if error. Basically what this is just a wrapper for the rest of the formula that if, let's say, you have something that has to divide by 0. You put in a zero interest minimal on a tract for something just to have it as a record, and then you try dividing by 0, you're going to get errors in your spreadsheet. So you use the if error statement and say if there's an error, just make it look blank or say not applicable or something like that. Like I said, this is more about what, not how. At this point for these. Some tips. Fill out the top row of your spreadsheet and then just copy it down. Okay. Excel uses references, so if you're in A2 and you copy down to A3, it will change all the numbers in your formulas for you to reference the next line on whatever was referencing the first time. That way you only have to do this for one line. You can have 3,000 rows in a spreadsheet, which is terrible and daunting, but you only have to do the work once. All right. A couple other tips for selecting stuff. If you hold down the Control button, and actually I'm going to fix this because it should be Control Shift A, or no, Control A will select everything, but Control Shift right or Control Shift left, Control Shift up, Control Shift down selects everything in between where you clicked and the bottom or edge of your spreadsheet. Does that make sense? I'll give a demonstration shortly. Okay. And then just a reminder, just take it slow. Some words of advice from Aragon, a big Excel user, Lord of the Rings. The hasty stroke oft goes astray. So just, don't rush. Okay, so that's a slideshow. Do you guys want to see it inside of a spreadsheet? Might make more sense.
Yeah.
Yay!
Somebody hates spreadsheets.
What? My thing.
I have just got.
Hey
to
Kyle,
find
while you're
my
getting that
mouse here.
together, every spreadsheet that I ever have has all that, like when you Control Shift down, it highlights like everything, even if I don't have the cells filled out into infinity, and I can't get rid of all of the cells that are highlighted except for the ones that have text in them. How do I fix that?
All right, so
You call
that's
Kyle. That's
format.
how you fix it.
Yeah, feel free to call.
Excellent.
That's how I fix it. But I really like to know.
You're gonna have to guess my number. No, you guys know where I work, not P&D, so just call us. But if you do have that problem, because that will also make your spreadsheets really big in size and they move really slow and it can be a real pain to deal with those, it's because of invisible formatting that's in there. So what I like to do is I like to go to select everything and then select just the blank cells, which if you go to your special selection functions, which are under here under Go To Special. Oh, you guys can't see what's on the screen.
Let's see, just flowers. You ever do that?
I lost my cursor. Hold on.
You never have.
But I know what you're talking about because I was going to ask them that. Because the spreadsheets run into
What do I do if I can't see the cursor? Okay.
Megan!
I am, but it's not like it. Oh, wait, I found it. Sorry. But are we able to change the presentation method to mirroring instead of dual screens? Okay. No, that's the answer. All right. So, inside of Excel, on your home screen, if you click the Find and Select button, you can click Go to Special. This will allow you to select blanks. This will select anything that looks blank, and then you can delete it or you can clear formatting. And that will get rid of all that stuff that you can't see, like if there's spaces, or if you just select a cell because you selected an entire column, and you said make all the text red, but even there's no text in it, it saves that formatting for if you were to put text in it, the cell now knows to make it red. But that's what I mean by invisible formatting. It's things that you've told it to do or somebody has told it to do along the way that it's keeping in mind in case you use those cells, but you're not using them, so now it's just taking up space. All right.
Okay, could you also do that instead of filtering? You
The-
filter to delete your object, everything, is that considered part of the format?
No, you can use filtering to see the blank ones, but you have to do the filtering usually one row or one column at a time. And so if you just go to select all blanks at the same time, you can do it all at once.
Kyle, how did you get to that box popped up?
Yes, let me put this onto here and then figure out how to do this while I'm facing you. Okay, so on the top right hand corner, you see where it says Find and Select. If you click on that, it gives you a drop down and you click Go to Special. And then it brings up that box. Try not to lose what I have there. Okay. So let me try something real quick with this presentation. I'll put that on me like these.
Just kidding.
He's seeing it on his stuff, but we're not seeing it on the mirror.
I mean, it literally is. Male part of it.
changed that back before, but now we're looking at the same stuff. This is great.
Yay.
Cool. Okay. So yes, that button in the top right-hand corner, find and select, go to special, pops up that, and you can do blanks. I didn't have anything selected.
I just like the sound.
Okay. So what I have here is some obfuscated data. So this is some data that I took out of the system that messed up to protect the innocent. But you can see our simple formula here with the equal lease schedule by tract AQ2. So that means now in column A, I'm bringing in my lease ID, which is in column AQ of a different tab or a different worksheet, because we've got all of our worksheets, all of our worksheets at the bottom there. So from here, I'm pulling AQ column from this spreadsheet into the first column of my main spreadsheet. Does that make sense? So that's the equal formula. I'm just saying, give me the value of this one cell.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are these all different reports that you ran at the bottom?
Yes, so these are the different reports that I talked about. The lease schedule by tract is my lease tract owner report, and then I have the tract snapshot, which is my tract list. The lease snapshot is what I have for my lease list. And then the other reports, I don't have anything on work interest or wells, but the vertical queue, horizontal queue, continuous drilling, pooling clauses, offset provisions, and cessation of production, those all came from my special provision status report, and I just cut it up based on which provision I was using.
You just copied and pasted it in, so it's
Yep,
all in the same.
I just copied and pasted the whole thing in here. So this is exactly what I exported. I just took it out of one Excel spreadsheet and put it into here, did that for this, and now I've got like a 12 megabyte spreadsheet instead of 6 2 megabyte spreadsheets. Is that clear for people? Clear as mud? Yeah, okay. Hopefully it's clean mud. All right, moving on. So here's what I was talking about with the control shift down. It'll just select everything. So control shift.
where's
Control
your-
shift down, that selects everything below where I have selected. So like if I click, I go back to the top here. So I'm in cell A2 right now. Let's say I want to select everything below me and not get any of the empty cells that's at the bottom. I hold down I hold down Shift and Control, and I push the down key, and it selects everything. And now you can copy, paste, whatever, all of those. Does that make sense? A little bit clearer than just looking at words on the slideshow? Okay. I really hope this is useful to you guys. So far, anybody learned anything?
Yes.
Yeah? Oh, cool. All right, so what I've done is I've just gone column by column, what data I want to bring in. I figured out what I need in my spreadsheet, which spreadsheet needs to come from, and I'm just using that equal sign to bring it in because, like I said, that lease schedule by tract is my main spreadsheet. Once I get to something that's not from my main spreadsheet, I have to start using the VLOOKUP. So over here to bring in my lease gross acres, this is coming from my lease snapshot, so that's where I do the VLOOKUP. Remember, equal VLOOKUP, what you want to match on. It's my lease acres, so I'm using my lease ID to match on it. Where that data is coming from, that's referencing the other worksheet and the columns therein. Which column I'm pulling from, the 14th column, and then false because we always do false. All right, is that a little bit better seeing it inside the spreadsheet? Maybe. And this is just more of the same. More of the same. Every time. So you see, I start pulling from other worksheets. This one's pulling from the pooling provisions, all that sort of thing. And then, what's it called? Depending on, see, I'm not using any of those if or if error wrappers. That's why I have these NAs in there. If you use if error, you can make those blank. Makes it pretty. Sometimes you want to see problems though, and that can be helpful. Okay. So we'll make a little pivot table, okay? All right. So I always like to do these in new worksheets. Just makes me feel comfortable. Go over to my insert pivot table. What data you want to select from. So this is where you're going to get your information. The easiest thing to do is just come in here. Start in cell A1, hold down, or actually you can just select that whole column. There we go. Control Shift, right, and then we get our whole spreadsheet. See how that filled in under table branch? So that Control Shift comes in handy. And then we have to pick what it is that we want to see. Let me look at my notes real quick. Those are all on the spreadsheet. Okay, so we want to bring in track status code. I'll bring in our lease expiration, because we care, when stuff expires. We got it titled something different in the spreadsheet now. I get my tracking acres. There we go. Okay. So this, real basic pivot table here. So this is just summing up data based on when it's set to expire. What the filter does, if we move our filters up, so filters let you narrow down data, and we care about the stuff in 2018, right? There we go. So this is giving us, let me make sure, yes. So this is showing me now what acres expire in 2018, separated out by quarters, and then I have stuff that is partially held by production, that's all in quarter 4, and that's broken out by what you have down here on the right. So my track status of non-producing and partially held by production, and then my quarters. It's just doing a simple sum. These can get more complex, but why do them? You don't have to, right? So does that make sense? That process makes sense for everybody? Okay, I hope so. Like I said, it is useless if I lose you. All right, so let's.
Question.
Yeah.
You're putting everything out of one spreadsheet. What if stuff is in a whole nother workbook and you're basically going to link it? Is that
So the easiest thing to do when you have stuff in multiple workbooks is just to make new tabs inside of one workbook and copy it in there. Yeah, otherwise you run into a lot of problems if something gets renamed or is locked for editing, and also moves slower if it's in multiple spreadsheets, which I know we've all seen some pretty slow spreadsheets, so imagine if they were even worse. All right, everybody good?
Is the
Cool.
pivot?
Good question. Yes.
Is the pivot? Is this the one where if you click on that, it will show you, or is this not?
Yes, it will. So if you want to see what 5 acres is expiring here, you can just double click on it. And then it opens up a new tab in your spreadsheet and it shows you how it's getting that answer. So if something doesn't look right or you want to see the details, you can get that.
Cool.
Great question.
I knew there was one that did that. But I wasn't sure.
What about hyperlinking those spreadsheets? Like if you were to open up those and then when it opens up that new sheet or a prior sheet, is there any way to hyperlink that to the PDF document?
Yes, there is.
It's like I cannot do that here.
All right, that's under the Insert tab. I'll just leave it there. If you go to the Insert tab, you can select a cell. You do Insert Hyperlink. That'll let you put it to PDFs. If you use a pretty standardized file naming convention for your files, then you can automate making those hyperlinks but that would have to be handled under a different talk. So far, I've been boring you guys for 30 minutes.
January, people.
All right, so let's just do a quick little table. I keep calling them pretty tables. That's just because tables are boring. So let's make a quick little table here. And all you have to do, or here, let me put it in title C. I did not spell that right. Okay, and then we're going to use our equal, and put it in here. So Q1, oh, we don't have any Q1, so we just type in 0. All right, Q2, I just type in my equal sign, and then I click on the cell, and Excel fills in the rest for me. That's all you have to do when you're pulling in info from pivot tables. We do Q3, great. Q4, it's a little bit different because we have two things that we need to put in. So we click on the first cell, we hit the plus sign, and then we click on the second cell, and it builds the rest of it for us. Hit enter. Now we have some very simple data. And we can select that, format as table. Let's go purple. Or lemon. And then we get a nice purple table.
How
Who
pretty!
would have done that? All right. So that's the basics. Don't worry, I'm not going any more advanced than that. Okay. I realize now that may have been the wrong choice of words to use when I said basics, because you can go most of your life in Excel without needing to know any of this. But having this information can take making reports, from days to hours, or from hours to half an hour. By the end of it, I do one of these reports and it takes me less than an hour to finish. So once you get in the habit of it and you have your template built, it goes a lot quicker. So like I said, you can save this, you make a copy of it, you can do one for each prospect if you want different prospects. Or if you have multiple companies that you're working with, then you can just do one for multiple companies. Subsidiaries, whatever. Any questions? No? Okay, well, I guess the last tip I had was recently read, the only thing better than having all the answers is knowing when to shut up. Have a good one.
Time for me to win some money. I need to win some money. Pocket. All of it. Just this.
Oh, okay.
Alright, so do you want to do land pro first?
Yeah, will you announce it?
Yes. Land Pro Door Prize winner 101. It's 10 hours.
It's $101 donated by Lampro plus a free GIS course for 1 hour GIS course. So if you call him, which we gave one out every month except for seminar month, seminar April. So he donates these class. He has yet to hear from anybody that's actually won the class. So it's super interesting. So if you win the class, give him a call and he'll walk you through the GIS process. You'll learn some tips and tricks. And Kyle and I used to work with him, so he's pretty cool. And $101 donated every month. So
Yeah.
thank you, Lampro.
And all the details are in the envelope.
It is, yeah.
In case there was anybody free, there was a test.
Susan won one.
Susan won.
Just pick one. All right.
The last one.
You can read it.
Okay. 388-9477.
Yay, Billy and I used to work together. Or actually,
If you will,
she actually.
Hands in the,
right here.
oh.
Pam's
There she is. And pictures.
Pam has left.
Pam's left?
Yeah, so just
Oh.
hang tight. I'll get your name, I guess.
Why don't you come here? Okay.
What do you have it?
Sorry,
Here.
bookkeeping. And two $25.
I'll take 25.
Two. So everybody is ready to get.
Okay. Everybody's red ticket starts with 388, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 9534.
Good job. Thank you. Yes, yes. Tell Miss Pam your name.
Susan.
And we'll get your picture and one more.
Okay. Let's see. All right. 9462.
Okay.
9462.
How you doing? Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. There, that's the housekeeping. Thank you, Kyle. Kyle, thank you so much. I can't think of anything else.